Chapter 2. It was the next morning when the big yeller dog came. I found him at daylight when Ma told me to step out to the dog run and cut down a side of meddling meat hanging in the pole rafters. The minute I opened the door and looked up, I saw the meat was gone. It had been tied to the rafters with bear grass braids that had been braided together to make a string. Now nothing was left hanging to the pole but the frazzled ends of the snapped blades. I looked down then, and at the same instant a dog rose up from where he had been curled up on the ground beside the barrel that held our cornmeal. He was a big, ugly, slick-haired yeller dog. One short ear had been chewed clean off, and his tail had been bobbed so close to his rump that there was hardly stump enough left to wag. But the most noticeable thing to me about him was how thin and starved-looking he was, all but his belly. His belly was swelled up as tight and round as a pumpkin. It wasn't hard to tell how come that belly was so full. All I had to do was look at that piece of curled-up hide that was laying in the dirt beside him, for all the meat was gnawed off. That side of meat had been a big one, but now there wasn't enough meat left on the rind to interest a pack rat. Well, to lose the only meat we had left from the last winter's hog butchering was bad enough, but what made me even madder was the way the dog acted. He didn't even have the manners to feel ashamed of what he had done. He rose to his feet, stretched and yawned, and then he come romping towards me, wiggling that stubby little tail and yelling, "Roar, roar, roar," like he belonged there and I was his best friend. "Why, you thieving rascal!" I shouted, and kicked at him as hard as I could. He ducked just in time so that I missed him by a hair, but no one could have told I'd missed, after the way he fell over on the ground and lay there with his belly up and his four legs in the air, squalling and bellering at the top of his voice. From the racket he had made, you'd have thought I had a club and was breaking every bone in his body. Ma came running to stick her head through the door and was saying, "What on earth, Travis? Why, this old stray dog had come and ate all of our middling meat clean up," I said. So I aimed another kick at him, and he was quick, and he rolled out of reach again just in time, and then fell back to the ground and lay there yelling louder than ever. Well, then out come little Arliss, and he was naked, like he always slept in the summer, and he was hollering, "A dog! A dog!" He ran past me and fell on the ground, petting on him till he quit howling, then he turned on me, fighting mad. "You quit kicking my dog!" he yelled fiercely. "You kick my dog and I'll wear you to a frazzle." The battling stick that Ma used to beat the dirt out of the clothes she was watching stood leaning against the wall. Well, now little Arliss grabbed it up in both hands and come after me a-swinging. It was such a surprising move little Arliss made fight at me that way that I just stood there with my mouth open and let him clout me a good one before I thought to move. Well, then Ma steps in and took the stick away from him. Well, Arliss turned on her, ready to fight with his bare fists. Then he decided against it and ran and put his arms around the big dog's neck, and he began to yelling, "He's my dog! You can't kick him! He's my dog!" The big dog was back up on his feet now, wagging his stubby tail and licking the tears off Arliss's face with his pink tongue. Ma laughed. "Well, Travis," she said, "it looks like we got us a dog." "But, Ma," I said, "you don't mean we'd keep an old ugly dog like that? One that'll come in and steal meat right out of the house?" "Well, maybe we can't keep him," Ma said. "Maybe he belongs to someone around here who wants him back." "Well, I don't think he belongs to anyone in the settlement. I know every dog at Salt Licks." "Well, then," Ma said, "if he is a stray, there's no reason why little Arliss can't claim him. And you'll have to admit, he is a smart dog. Mighty few dogs have sense enough to figure out a way to reach a side of meat hanging up that high. He must have climbed up on top of that barrel and jumped from there." Well, I went over and looked at that wooden lid on top of the meal barrel, and sure enough, in the thin film of dust there settled, there were some dog tracks. "Well, all right," I admitted. He's a smart dog, but I still don't want him. Now, Travis, Ma said, you're not being fair. You had a dog when you was little, but Arliss, he never had one. He was too little for you to play with, and he gets lonely. I didn't say any more. When Ma got her mind set in a certain way, there was no use in arguing with her. But I didn't want that meat-thieving dog on the place, and I didn't aim to have him. I might have to put up with him for a day or so, but sooner or later, I'd find a way to get rid of him. Ma must have guessed what was going on in my mind, for she kept handing me some sober looks all the time she was getting breakfast. She fed us cornmeal mush, cooked in a pot swung over the fireplace, and she sweetened it with a little wild honey that Pa and I had cut out of a bee tree last fall, and added cream skimmed off from last night's milk. It was good eating, but I had lost my appetite, being that I had my mind set upon fried middling meat to go with it. Ma waited till I was done and then said, now, Travis, as soon as you've milked the cows, I think you ought to go get your gun and try and get us a fat young doe for meat. And while you're gone, I want you to do some thinking about what I said about little Arliss and that stray dog. End of chapter 2.